Thank you, Davi. Thank you, John, for the invitation and the opportunity to show some of the work we are developing in medicine. In medicine, I suffer of cold stress, so different from what Jeff showed today. I'm from Brazil, so going to Wisconsin, the type of stress that I have there personally is different. So the AI that I'll be talking about today is not artificial insemination. So that I guess that's a different topic that we'll be talking about. It will be talking about artificial intelligence, and it's a very big buzzword. Everybody's talking about AI, and I will show some examples with sensing technology and some of the models that we use in AI in general to extract phenotypes that we use for management decisions. And I collaborate a lot with geneticists, and they are very interested on those phenotypes as well. So my presentation will be more connected than I expect to what you saw before, especially to points that Jeff mentioned about how the environment can affect the production of animals that may have the same genetic potential. And so collecting those phenotypes is extremely important. We use genomic selection for cows. You can have cows with high PTA, and you may select for that, but something may happen on those cows during the life, like heat stress, and these may change the performance of those animals. And so the goal in the lab, it's collecting those phenotypes for farm management and try to get these at the individual level at large scale, and at the same time collaborate with geneticists for doing that. Should I just, okay, there you go. So I like this slide a lot because it illustrates what I just described about the importance of the phenotype. Here you can see in this red line is the amount of milk produced per cow in Wisconsin, and from 1931 up to 2021. And these are the number of cows in Wisconsin. So you see more production with fewer cows over time. And there was, a lot of progress in terms of management. Lance and Jeff would be mad with me if I want to attribute that for genomics. And I'm not even a geneticist. There was a huge improvement in management, but there was a great and a huge impact on genomics and genetic progress over this period of time that allow us to get to this point, again, with management, with good management. And I like to pick genomic here because it's a good example of how technology became cheaper and allowed this to be developed, right? So this plot here is the cost to genotype an animal, and you can see that the cost to get the genomic information drastically decrease over time. It shows us that you have technology sometimes that may be expensive at this point, but may dramatically reduce costs, and these may bring advance that we are not actually foreseeing at this point that we have. So, but the problem is, if we look to this plot here on the left, this is milk production, and a lot of the selection were based on the phenotypes that were available, right? And now there is a huge interest in other phenotypes, like feed efficiency, methane emission, and so on and so forth, behavior. But that's only possible to make progress if we collect those phenotypes. And collecting those phenotypes is expensive, and to do that at large scale, then we need to use technology. And that's what we do. Not for genetics, I'm not a geneticist. We leverage those phenotypes here for farm management decisions. We are very interested on using sensors, which is very likely the only way to collect animal level information at scale to improve animal health, animal welfare, optimize nutrition at the farm. And of course, we could contribute with geneticists in case of dairy cows for a long-term return, because you don't get the next month the benefit of selecting cows. These will need to come back to the herd in 1, 2, 3, 4 years after applying genetic selection. But the short-term impact of farm management using those technologies could be possible and could work somehow in integration with genetic selection. So what we're interested in measuring animal behavior, disease, body composition, and then understand more about the physiology and the nutrition of the animal. And I do have collaborations with my colleagues at the department trying to advance some of those areas using those phenotypes. So I will show you an example, a study that we developed in medicine looking to body shape, body tissue mobilization and change in body shape in the prepartum and the postpartum, and how this is related to subclinical ketose. And we're using basically computer vision to predict and to evaluate the changes in body shape. So I'll be talking about AI, but most of the things I will show here will be computer vision, well, maybe it will be 100%. And the computer vision will be this segment of AI that I'm working and that I'll be showing here to you. So at the farm, we have 4 lanes coming out of the milking parlor. As you can see here, 1 lane, and we have another lane. And we have cameras like that camera here, which is that size, and costs about $400. That's positioned here, and on the other side, we have 2 other cameras. And the view that we have is basically this top-down view here. So what this camera is doing is this camera can map 3D objects or the distance of the objects in the scene. So basically computes the distance from where it's located to the floor. So here you see 1 meter, 1.5 meter, 3 meters. So that camera is calculating the average distance, the average of this square, this white square. And this is the distance from where the camera is located to the floor, which is 3 meters. Every time a cow is walking here and hit this small square with a virtual square, it changes the distance because now the camera is seeing the back of the cow. So if you see this cow, then it goes to 1,000 or 1.5 meters. That's the distance from where the camera is located to the back of the cow, or in this case, from where the camera is located to the floor. So in that case, every time that distance change, it means there is a cow walking, and we collect a sequence of frames of those cows, of this of that camera. So this sequence of frame will give us the depth image, what you can see here, and the infrared image, which is a grayscale image, like a black and white image. Again, each pixel in that image is a distance, okay? And these colors, they just represent the values. It could be red and orange, it could be any color, they don't really matter. What matters is the distance on the floor will be 3 meters, the pixel distance here will be 3 meter value, and the value on the back of the cow would be 1.5 or 1 meter, 2 meters. This is all to explain you that we can have a 3D representation of the body of the cow, of the surface of the cow. And then we could look to the change of the body surface and how this could be related to body weight, body growth, and other aspects that I will show here. And this camera can also give a regular picture, which is this grayscale regular image you see here. So because the cow is walking and we don't stop the cows, as you see in the picture, in the video, we need to start using models for image classification to automatically give me, or give us what we call good image, which is an image that I have the cow completely in the frame and it's not cropped or there is no cow. And this may sound boring at this point, and it kind of is, but it's necessary because for this particular time point, we collect 50,000 images, and just selecting the good ones, I put that down to 19,000 images. So when you think about scaling those systems, we need to use some analysis to just extract what's good and then discard and do not save or store what's bad. Then we need to train another model that is able to classify the pixel that belongs to the animal body, because the idea here is to remove all the noise in the background that we are not interested and only have the image from the body of the animal. And then we train this model that can find the pixels that belongs to the image, to the animal, and then we have what we call the masked image, which is this image without background and the depth image without background. So that process, it's automatically, it's deployed in an automatic way, and so the cow walks and all this happen, and finally you have this picture and that picture here. So we could, and we try to use RFID to then connect the picture with the ID of the animal. So if I have a 5,000 cow farm, in our case, we have about 500 cows, 450 cows, I could know that this picture is coming from a particular cow. But we have problems when we have, for example, ultra high frequency RFID, like those antennas triggering the cameras because cows will walk very fast. You don't catch all the cows all the time. So what we decided to do was to use animal identification based on the picture only, and then tag the phenotype on those particular pictures later on. So the performance of these models to classify cows based on the coat color, on black and white, on the dorsal view, it's very good. It really can detect cows very well based on that. black and white coat color pattern. And that's what we are doing for hosting cows. The problem is in the herd, you're going to have all black cows, all white cows, and people may complain about Jersey cows or Angus. And so we then developed this method that we could use only the body surface as a biometric. So imagine your face without any color information. You have all the change in the surface or the biometrics of the body on the top-down view that could be a unique identifier for this animal. So we don't use color information for that. And more recently, we train a model that implements a key point. The model is a key point detection. We predict these key points. I don't know if you can see that very well here, but automatically place those key points on parts of the body that are this bony structure here, those landmarks. And we use this skeleton from the top down, as you see in strategy 1 and 2 and 3 here, to identify the animal. So basically what we do here is we calculate the Euclidean distance among all these key points and use this as a unique identifier. It's almost like measuring the distance between your eyes, the relation of the distance from your eyes to your nose, right? So everyone here will very likely have your own biometric features in your face, and this will be your unique ID. And that's what we're doing with those cows, using the whole skeleton or going up to only the rump of the animal. And of course, the animal is growing, and so this distance will change. So these distances are normalized for the sum of all the distance of the body, so they become a proportion. And the performance to identify animals only using this skeleton and no color information at all, it's very good. It's 96% accurate to identify animals based on the image. And so by solving these, we can start looking to the phenotypes and tag the ID to those particular phenotypes and have this in a more automated way. So this is a project. It's a USDA project. We are following animals, 200 animals from birth to the end of the first lactation. And we have 30 small cameras like that placed there, connected to those white boxes, as you can see here. And we have about 30 pens with 8 animals each pen, and we collect those death images of those calves from day 0 up to the end of the first lactation. And so what you want to do here is you want to look to body growth, but not only from the body weight only, but for all the body biometrics that we can compute with things like these, which would be length, width, height, and so on and so forth, and how these different growth patterns would be associated to lactation performance. If you go to the literature, it's very difficult to find papers that can monitor in a very continuous way all these measurements at a large amount of animals, because it's very labor intensive to do that. And so here, we want to look to all these biometrics, but I'm showing an example of body weight prediction. So we have animals from 150 kilograms up to 850 kilograms, and or close to 750 kilograms. And we are using those distance, all these biometric features extract from the dorsal view, and that's the quality of the prediction, 6% error of prediction and I-square of 0.85 to estimate body weight. And we can, of course, very precisely estimate length, width, circularity, and all the other biometric features that could be associated with different growth patterns. And we have seen that. We have seen animals that are gaining 5 kilograms and the other animals gain 5 kilograms, but they are growing in different ways. And this other plot here, it's only using the features that we have extracted from the rump. And the reason is sometimes we have an image that will not be good. You may crop the head of the animal, and you can still estimate body weight using that. This is the relations with those biometric features and hip height. And that's very interesting for us because this is from a 2D image, a regular picture. And so we don't have any depth information in that particular picture here. So I cannot directly compute the height. And so we are just using the association of these features with height, which is being predicted very well. So we can, with a very simple camera, look to body weight, to all the 2D biometrics, and to body, to hip height as well. So in this pipeline that we implemented here, we also want to look to body shape. And initially, we started discussing about body conditioning score. But if you go in the literature, there will be 20 papers looking to body conditioning score. And when you have those type of ground truth, it's really hard to train the models because body conditioning score is subjective. So I'm going to teach a model subjective score based on human evaluation. And would be way better if I could use this image to compute features like body volume and circularity and metrics that I can compute instead of look to score. And that's what we did here. So just to give you an idea about what is the performance of these models to classify body conditioning score first, which we're not very interested at this point. It's 81% if you assume a 0.25 error, or 0.96% if you assume a 0.5 error. So it's very consistent to all these dozens of papers that are already published. So what we want to do here, it's basically avoid this subjectivity where we had evaluators going to the farm, looking to this cow 21 days before calving and saying this is body conditioning score 4. And then 1 week later, they looked the cows again. They went to the farm and said this is body conditioning score 4. Not based on the image, they actually went to the farm. And then when we overlay those images, we see difference in shape of those cows. Not even looking to the depth, but just looking to in a 2D plane. And so what came to mind is, should we use those images as predictors of disease during transition period, and considering that our eyes won't be able to pick up small difference that could happen on the change in body shape. So I collaborated with Dr. Heather White. She's a professor in my department. She was running a trial in transition period. So I tagged along with her, and I collect data from 92 cows. So we collect blood, BHB, pretty much almost every day after calving, and we had data before calving too. And we collect 3D images in the prepartum 21 days, 14, and 7 days before calving. And the idea here was try to predict subclinical ketose up to 14 days after calving based on the blood BHB that we collect here. We use 1.0 millimole. I can explain later why we didn't use 1.2 or any other threshold. But we collect image in the prepartum, we collect wearable sensor data in the prepartum, and we collect also text information. And I'll explain more about what this text information is, which is basically text in unstructured form, which are basically notes that you put in the computer, and it's not in a tabular form. Imagine that you type in your phone or in a piece of paper, oh, this cow was moved to this pen, this happened to this cow. So there is a lot of unstructured data on those programs that we don't use because they're not in tabular form. So we try to extract information from that too. So we combined the image, wearable, and text, and the idea was to predict this event. Here, that was quite a challenge because my last data point would come 7 days before calving. And in the best case scenario, the disease or the metabolic disorder would happen the first day, and then you have 1 week gap. That would be the best case scenario. If that happened 14 days later, then the gap is way bigger. So the way we extract information, I'm not going to detail on this, but there are models for image analysis called convolutional neural networks. You use those images as inputs, and you have a particular task for this image, which in our case was predict body condition score, although we're not using the prediction of body condition score. I'll explain that. But those networks, they learn the representation of those images, and they can extract features like contour, edge, particular parts of the body that are related to the shape of a fat cow or a thin cow. And so what we did then, we use a vector of features before the prediction, which would represent what this type of model learns about shape, but not necessarily using body condition score information. So that's a way to extract information of the body using those models that are used for image analysis. Here is what the model is putting attention when it's classifying body condition score. So you see some cows, you put attention on the rump, some cows, you put more attention here. And these gradients that I extract from the network, they may be very useful. They're not very useful in our case here. The only utility of this is if this map, it's looking to the gate of the barn, then your model has a bias and is only classifying cows because it's looking to the gate, for whatever reason. So with those models, you can see what the model is putting attention. This can give you insights in terms of the biology that's happening on the cow. The other strategy that we use, we predict those key points, as you can see here. And this is in a depth image, and we calculate we compute the vector, the distance from among these key points. So 1 to 3 here is this, the key point 1 is right here, and this red line go to 3. So if you look to this curve, if you turn that upside down, this is the back of the cow, right? So it's looking to the pin bone and look the valley that you'll see when you look to body condition score. So that's the distance from 3 to 5, that's the distance from 1 to 3, and that's the distance from 1 to 6. Okay, so this is the body of the cow. If you turn upside down, then you see exactly what you look on the cow when you look from the back. And then we compute the area under the curve. And so this is a cow body condition score 2.225, and this is a cow body condition score 4.5. So you can see that the valley that you see on the cow with body condition score 2 is not as smooth as you see here with the cow body condition score 4.5. Okay, so you really capture the curvature of the body using those cameras, and you use those things as predictors as well. And then we, after extracting those features, we put together wearable sensors, and through the wearable sensor, we had feeding, eating time, number of visits at the feed bank, lying time, standing time, all these features from the collars that are extracted from those type of sensors. And then we have the text nodes that run the computer. So one interesting thing we did here, so here is that we use the tabular data. As you can see, we have the cow ID, you have the number of visits, eating time, and when I say tabular data, data in tabular form, is like this Excel file that everybody analyze and use, right? So we have columns and rows, that's what it is. We use that as a predictor. But one thing we tried to do was converting that information here into a piece of paragraph like that. And when I say unstructured data, all the time that I call unstructured data, I'm talking about this type of data here, like a comment that you put in the LinkedIn or something, right? So you have a lot of those comments on those programs. And what you try to evaluate here, we're not suggesting that you get the data in this form and convert to that form. What you want to know is basically, if I have this information exactly in this way, which means they are the same information, they tell the same thing, right? The number of visits, the eating time. The only thing that changes is the structure. What would be the performance of these large language models that, like GPT, to process this data, convert this into a vector, a numerical vector that we could use for prediction? What would be the performance of those models? Because in case we have only unstructured data, these models could be implemented. And then to do that, we use those models that basically convert this type of data into numbers, and these numbers can be used for prediction. And here is data from Dairy Comp. You can see all the activities of these cows in very unstructured form, and these were converted into sentences that were used for prediction. So, pen movement, things that the person that moved the cow, all those notes that are in the program that were used as in an unstructured form. So what we found here was an accuracy to detect the subclinical ketones using the image and the sensor and the nodes with 76% accuracy using the prepartum data. And this was at least 7 days in advance. And so that was very good in our opinion, considering that all the attempts that we saw in the literature were using the onset of the prediction. So basically saying this cow is sick, or in a much shorter interval, or not as as early as we observed here. Another thing we saw was the unstructured data versus structured data was better to use the structured data as we usually use, but the performance of these models as unstructured, they were very close, meaning that if we fine-tune models to understand more about dairy cow context with GPT, it doesn't know, it may get close to the performance of tabular data. And what the impact of this is, you could basically insert data in programs with your voice with no need to put data in a tabular structured form, and you still make predictions in a way, a much easier way. And there was an improved F1 score when you use the notes of the program in comparison to not using, which means that there are relevant information on the notes that we ignore almost all the time at the farm because those notes are not easy to structure and put in a model. So the other thing we are doing with some of the calves and some trials that we have is behavior. We are very interested in feeding behavior. So using the camera to compute eating time, visit duration, interval between visits, using those cameras, and basically identifying the animals only when the animal crosses the head on the headlock. And so we can see patterns, for example, like this animal that's not going to eat, and eventually this animal will be a sick animal that changes the behavior. We can track that in very real time with the cameras we have in this type of models. So this picture is from the floating farm that we go, this video actually, this afternoon. We collect data to train some of our models. We have cameras there. They may not be actually working at this point, or they may not be on. We don't have any trial going on now, but that was monitoring the whole group at the floating farm, and here you could actually look to all the animals and compute how many animals are eating, how many animals are lying down, and which is different from the first video, which you look into the individual animals. Here we are looking to the group of animals and what the behavior of the group would be. So another application that actually connects some with the Jeff's talk is respiration rate. This is another picture from floating farm, another video. So we are computing the pixel intensity of the flank movement. So you look to the belly of the cow going up and down. We extract a very raw noisy signal here. And of course, this signal will have different frequencies. Could be the frequency of the respiration, or could be a fly coming over along the camera. And so what we do, we use Fourier transform. We convert this signal into a frequency domain, and then we count the number of peaks, and then we compute respiration rate. And actually, it goes beyond respiration rate because this tells a lot about the respiration pattern of the animal. So we have looked to animals with subclinical respiratory disease, and they have very weird behavior because the flank movement is just very different from the healthy animal. So here is the predictions of the respiration rate using cows, using calves, and this blue and black here are using cameras during the night period or the day period, and the predictions were very well. So we could use cameras to monitor a group of animals in terms of respiration rate. And related to heat stress, it would be interesting to see animals with, for example, high THI, but that will, based on the respiration rate, not been demonstrating heat stress. And so we could look to a more individual level as opposed to the whole group if we have this type of phenotypes. And so the last example I want to show you, it's again back to these key points. We are very interested in tracking locomotion problems and walking patterns. And there is a lot in terms of bone structure and movement and how the animal develop in terms of skeleton. And so we train a model that places these key points on these parts of the animal. So shoulder, the joints, pretty much all the joints, the neck. And what we do is, as the animal walk, we place all these key points and we extract what we call mobility variables. Okay, so basically we extract things like head position, head bobbing, which is this vertical movement of the head. The head position is what's the head in terms of in relation to the back, stride length, tracking up, and pretty much all these joints, the angles of the joints. And we use these for locomotion score classification, but it could do way more things. So we ran a trial with 204 cows. I'm not going to detail how we did that, but what I want to show you is the ability of these models to classify mobility score 0, 1, and in this case, we put together 2 plus 3 because we didn't have enough trees. We didn't have enough severe cows, very impacted with locomotion score, really bad. And so the overall accuracy was very good to classify this locomotion score based on the variables that I showed you, although sensitivity to classify locomotion score 1 was not great. And this is a particular problem of scores where you have the human evaluating a healthy cow or almost healthy cow. And so drawing those boundaries are just a difficult challenge. But here is for example, a cow with a good mobility score. So what the system is doing is looking to this cow from the side, lateral view, and then compute head position, head bobbing, stride length, walking speed, back angle, and the angle of all these joints and so on. Here is a cow that's 1. So again, really tough to differentiate from the 0, and then the variable. So if you keep the numbers, if you take notes and look, this is 0.5, you see the head bob is 0.5. You see this cow, the head bob will be a way bigger value. So it goes to 1. So it's the double of the cow with mobility score 1. Walking speed was before in a healthy cow 140 centimeters per second, and now go up to this mobility score 3, and you see the head bobbing value increasing 10 times, right? So was 0.49, 0.5, and with this cow, it goes to 4.8, and walking speed drops to 94. So this is basically what the model is looking to make prediction. The problem is at the farm, some of the computer science guys in my lab, they don't know this happened, right? So they get very frustrated when they see that the system is not working, or they learn that cows don't walk straight, right? And they get very frustrated the technology do that, right?
It's cool.
But they are very smart people. So they said, okay, let's go back to the key points on the back of the cow, as I showed before, and let's try to track a different feature. So now we're looking to the angle of the neck and the hip, and see how this cow is walking. Basically, if this cow is walking like a snake, or if the cow is walking straight. So here with a cow with mobility score 0, you see that these key points will move, right, straight. So you see the plot A here. Let me go back. So this is the X coordinate of the key point. This is the Y coordinate. So if this is like a flat line, it means that this key point is moving on the X-axis without moving too much on the Y-axis. So it's doing this. This plot here is the X-axis is moving like this. So it's moving along the X-axis, but also along the Y-axis. So it gives you this. This is a healthy cow. This is a score 3 cow. And then you can see the cow walking very straight. It generates these plots of all these key points. And then this cow, mobility score 3, we have like the rump movement swinging right and left, and give us this graph here. Okay, so if you look to the accuracy to classify locomotion score, it's very similar to what I showed previously. And then the back lateral movement, it's a very important variable classified locomotion score. So with those phenotypes, we look into the heritability in terms of genetics, how heritable are those traits, and what's the relationship with skeletal development. And when the animal is a heifer, she doesn't have any of these, but we're looking if there is any pattern early on in life that we associate with a higher chance of the animal to have locomotion problems based on a normal mobility or walking pattern. Okay, I see John standing there. So I guess that the main consideration is that those phenotypes now can be obtained on a large scale. They are becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. These may help a lot in terms of farm management decision, studies with physiology. I collaborate a lot with Jimena that Jeff mentioned. There are a lot of memory gland and histological imaging biopsies that we do image analysis. And I collaborate with other colleagues with interest in physiology. But there is a lot in terms of farm management decisions that we can improve by using this information. And the challenge is how we train the new generation to deal with this type of data, with this size of data. Like I showed 450 terabytes, one single trial. And that's something that we are, I guess, everybody's learning together at this point, but there is a huge potential here. So thank USGA, Microsoft for funding those trials that I showed. And this is the group that these guys are doing the work, and I'm just having fun here in Rotterdam. Thank you very much.